I'm welcoming Holly Cope today on Unbiased. Holly is an ex-lawyer turned host of a top-ranking law podcast, More Than a Lawyer, and she sparked global conversations about the future of the profession and how we can do law differently. Now, Holly started out in private practice in a law firm specializing in immigration law and compliance. And since leaving law or leaving the inside of the law, she's worked on various projects, including producing in-house podcasts for law firms, coaching on LinkedIn branding and brand building for lawyers. And now she has created a global AI skills summit for lawyers, bringing together experts to help the profession navigate what's next. Now, Holly and I met at Legal Tech Talk. It's one of a number of growing forums and conferences for the growing number of lawyers who can see that things are going to have to be done differently in the new world of technology and innovation and change. And so she was just a natural fit for some of the topics that we cover here on Unbiased. And one of the things that we connected on was that intersection of technology and people, and that it's not binary, it's not either or, but how do we work together ourselves to work together well with technology. So I am delighted to get stuck into this. I think all of us in our various communities and industries are grappling with very similar topics, actually. And I think what we're experiencing, as listeners will know that I'm a lawyer still on the inside, that actually there's so much of what we face that actually affects all kinds of problems and can be a link in to addressing all kinds of issues. So Holly, welcome to Unbiased.
Oh, thank you so much, Darcy. It's so exciting to be here, especially because as you say, you're on the inside and I'm now on the outside. And so the conversations that we have with people are very different. We get different views and perspectives. So very excited to have this conversation with you.
Amazing. And so Holly, first of all, I want to get the vibe from your journey from going from the inside to the outside. You trained and worked as a lawyer, and the world is full of ex-lawyers doing fantastic things and saying they'll never go back. But you've actually still stayed within that legal space and really seem committed to helping lawyers through. So I'm really curious to understand what drew you into the profession in the first instance, and then what was it that led you back out into doing all the work that you're doing right now?
Oh my goodness. Where do I even start? It's such a long story, but I'll put it into a nutshell. I literally started working in the industry when I was 16 years old, doing work experience and little bits and bobs of stuff in law firms. And I just found it an absolutely fascinating industry. And so I studied law. I worked in different countries. I worked in Hong Kong in a law firm. I worked in Spain. And so I feel like I have this, I don't know, like wide spanning perspective of the industry across the globe. And it's carried me throughout my career until now, which is why I'm super interested in different perspectives from around the world and how the legal industry is affecting lawyers across the globe. But basically, I was working in law, absolutely loved it. But what I didn't was the 9-to-5 lifestyle. And this was pre-COVID, where it wasn't really possible to work from home. It was very traditional, structured, restrictive, not like it is as much now. It's a little bit more flexible now, but still quite restrictive from what I can see. And all I wanted to do was just travel and work. So I basically looked for ways that I could do this. And for me, the easiest way was to stay within the legal industry because it's what I knew. And as I say, I was working in it since I was at the age of 16. I felt really entrenched in the industry and I wanted to remain in that and use it as like an unfair advantage. Let's use my knowledge, network, and everything that I have built up over the years and create a business from it. So I literally started reaching out to law firms saying, can I write legal articles for you? Because for me, that was the easiest, low resistance thing that I could do, because I know how to write and I know the law. And to my surprise, law firms were like, yeah. So I started freelance writing and built up this client base. So that's what I started off doing. And then ultimately I quit my job because I started earning the same amount that I was earning in my law job. But what the difference was that I could travel now and write and be very flexible, which was amazing for me. But also at the same time, still learn about the legal updates and still be involved in the legal industry. But then that's absolutely completely evolved since then. I've done multiple things that I've just gone with where the industry is going, and now it's heading in the direction of AI. And I thought this is a chance to take a different approach to it. I literally only quit my law job like 3 years ago. So a lot's happened in 3 years.
Wow, that's phenomenal. I thought you'd been, years out, the amount that you've done. And I know we met, when we last saw each other in person, it was back in July. And since then, you've got like about 2 or 3 whole new initiatives that had kicked off. And it's one of the things that really strikes me about your journey when you see it online is that you're just keeping one foot in front of another, one step ahead of what's going on, and actually taking action to galvanize people to get on board. And there's a few things there. And one thing that I think you've just shared almost a masterclass on is like curating your ideal life and work and not settling for this is just how it is. It's how it is. If you want to be a lawyer, if you want to be successful, you're going to have to put in the hours. And you've said, no, that doesn't work for me. And you've found what can through trial and error, but also through leaning into your strengths. Like I said, it's just textbook how to take control of your life, that it's not going the way you are. And why this resonates a lot, and I suppose what I'd like to dig into a bit next is when I think about the mindset of the typical, very much quote unquote, because as we know, it's changing a lot, lawyer. And so particularly, I'm a millennial, yet grew up through pre-COVID, used to just being in the office 5 days a week. And I, as someone that shares actually your, like after a while, I just got, what is this all, that monotony of getting up, going into the office, doing a day, going out for drinks, back to bed, going to the gym, back to bed. And that cycle just had to break for me. And COVID helped in a way. And we have this whole new generation of lawyers, as you said, with a bit more flexibility. But how many, and now that you speak to so many, and when you share this story, I bet so many light bulbs go off in people who may be sitting there listening to you thinking, I have actually been in that same role. And yes, I love my work, but I am quite frustrated and I just put up with it. Like, what are you hearing most often about what people really want from their work today? And how does that compare with what the profession still expects of them? Because I know one of my frustrations sometimes can be that a law firm, for example, or these kind of slightly more traditional work structures that have been used to one way of doing things, when they'll see talent that's actually taking initiative and saying, I think I could do things totally differently, sometimes the response is, oh, that's great for you, Holly, we wish you well, we'll have to see you succeed elsewhere, but if you wanted to stay in this firm, you'd have to keep doing that here. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. The world of law is changing and has changed, I think, post-COVID. We have a new generation of lawyers that have come in from Gen Z, and these people think completely differently. I did a podcast episode with a Gen Z lawyer, and I'm a millennial as well. And their mindset, and I know obviously it was just one person, but I feel like it's across the board because I've listened to conversations with Gen Z lawyers, and their mindset is completely different. And the legal industry needs to keep up with this mindset because the Gen Z lawyers are the future of law, of course, are the future managing partners, associates. I think now, back when I first started in my legal career about 10 years ago, the biggest competitors for law firms were other law firms that were treating their staff great, giving brilliant benefits, great pension schemes. But now I don't believe that is the case. I think the biggest competitors for law firms is the consultancy model, flexibility, people quitting their jobs, being able to become digital nomad lawyers. This is what law firms are competing with now in order to keep top talent. So I think the expectations of law firms, making people do what they've always done, sit at their desks, work for hours on end, work in the middle of the night. I think those days are potentially almost over.
So let's then step into all the other things that may be driving change in the industry. And as I mentioned earlier, tech, well, we can talk about this in the context of our industries, but I think like a lot of the microcosm that we're in extends beyond. But a couple of things really. It's what now we're starting to see. So we're starting to see the industry move along. It might be dragged along in certain ways. It might be pushed along in others. But now, in order to accommodate that demand for flexibility, that demand from the new generation of lawyers that see things being done in a different way, technology seems to be, and AI would seem to be, a really important and helpful tool to drive that. And I'd love to hear a bit more about how you've gotten from where you are to something like the Global AI Skills Summit, because I think there's a journey there as well, going, okay, what do we have? We've got the changing generation of lawyers, we've got a changing mindset that won't deal with the things that maybe we put up with or worked through, but we still have an ambitious workforce in their own way. And we've got all these new technologies that seek to actually eradicate a lot of what kept us in the office all night back in the day. And we're just in this continued evolving phase of, this looks amazing, but we're cynical lawyers, so we're not really sure if it's going to work. Oh, we've tried stuff. It doesn't. That's a waste of money. Let's just put our heads back in the sand. And we seem to go in this cycle at the moment. Like, what are your thoughts on that? And how has that evolved your thinking into the next offering that you are putting out there, Holly?
I think we're going through a very, very interesting and one of the biggest transformations that the legal industry and probably the working industry as a whole is going through at the moment. And I think the issue with law firms is that you've got this, as you say, conflict between mindsets, a new generation of people that are used to technology, that are used to using ChatGPT. They probably used it for their studies. They graduated in a time during COVID when they were probably working from home. They probably did remote classes at university, which for us just was not even a thing, wasn't an option. They have a completely different mindset. And the mindset that they have is completely the opposite to the outdated mindset that these law firms have, because they're being run by people, probably the baby boomer generation or even millennials as well. And I feel like for us, it's a mindset shift for me. And I'm not even that old. So I think the biggest issue is mindset and culture, because the culture of law firms is just not made to adopt and implement the type of technology that is now available in order to make lawyers' jobs easier. Gosh, I just feel it's just such a transformation at the moment, and there's a lot of teething problems. There's a lot of just issues, and I feel like it's just continuing to be the case. But another thing that I see is that many lawyers, not even actually Gen Z lawyers as well, are concerned, and this is like the main reason why I came up with the idea of this AI training for lawyers, is because that they are concerned about the future of their jobs. Junior lawyers, a lot of the junior work will probably be done and is being done by AI. So they're like, okay, where does that leave us? So the only position that they're in now, from my perspective, it could be different. You could tell me something different because you're literally in it, but I'm out of it. But from my perspective, they're thinking, if my jobs are being taken over by AI, the only thing I need to do now is to upskill and learn and be valuable to law firms, because this is the only way that I'm going to get in. Obviously, there will be a place for the junior lawyers and the associates in law firms for sure. But many law firms that are adopting this technology, I think is going to be really competitive for these junior lawyers, these graduates. And then you've got the generation of millennials, baby boomers, and other people who are like, what is this AI stuff? What is this technology? We've been using paper files. Why do we now have to use this crazy stuff that's going on? And but at the same time, they're like, well, actually, it's really going to help our work. So there's all these conflicting opinions.
Yeah.
But the main issue is that they don't have the time, motivation, generally speaking, to learn about this, or the resources probably. Some law firms heard are providing this training, but I would imagine this is very few of them. It's quite a forward-thinking thing, and in the future, I think it will be completely mandatory. So I thought, how do we help these lawyers? So I thought, okay, let's just come up with a free training, get experts in, and have a full day summit and teach them about different areas of AI and how they can use simple AI to do everyday tasks. But also, I think it's important to understand about compliance and regulation and these things, because I've heard of a lot of lawyers using actually things like WhatsApp groups within their law firm. And for me, that's like a massive compliance red flag, like data protection, like all these things. And I just feel like there's just this knowledge gap and also a trust gap. They don't trust the technology. They don't know about the technology. So let's bring a person in, me, who is who is not biased. And I'm just like, I'm just going to present to you the training because I think you need to know about it in order to help you work in the future. So that's basically how I came up with this idea.
It feels like almost an exhale moment, like in that you've got, we get it, I think you're absolutely right. Someone that's, I'm inside, I'm in-house, the time, resource, and real life compliance concerns, then mixed with, but we've still got to use it, and you've got leadership and a business that's absolutely got to be going out to market using it. And it's really interesting that you point out this, how that conflict, that mindset and internal conflict can produce erratic results, even among risk averse lawyers of going from one hand, no, don't use it at all, and then the next you're sharing documents on a WhatsApp group chat. I think that's just so well depicted, and they just need someone to hold their hand and go, it's okay, everyone's in a similar boat, it is quite new, things are changing all the time. There is a future state where this will be totally normal. I see doMetimes now that we're grappling with it internally, and how do you draft for it, how do you prepare your organizations for it? And sometimes when I'm doing that exercise, I think in a few years time, this is going to be like using Microsoft Word or something. These are just tools that we use to do our jobs. There's nothing to see here on some element. But I think we've really seen that importance of the mindset shift and trust, because at the same time as this is all changing, the tools that are coming onto the market and the people getting on the AI bandwagon to sell products to consumers is also just growing rapidly, and also in a similar kind of, let's just make it up as we go along. We don't know. Regulations are starting to become firmer across the world, but they're also going to continue to evolve. And so you almost have a bit of a blind leading the blind on this stuff. And that can, and in a world of change in all aspects, all of which is just adding to people's daily life pressures, the importance of using this example as one to get a hold of ourselves and how we actually adapt and how we actually exhale and say there's always a solution. We just got to take a breath, take time out and figure that out together really resonates. And so I suppose bringing those two things together, I'm guessing that you're going to have to be on top of what is coming out there and being that person as well, I think, that can help lawyers who are right in the trenches to go actually and go, I'm overwhelmed, I'll go to these big conferences with a ton of booths and I don't know where to start. How are you finding, like, what is your take from the other side and all the tools that are coming onto the market? How much support do they need to help lawyers come along with them on the journey? And like, how much, and now the marketing and how does outreach of these providers change to acknowledge that, guys, I know you're coming at this with a healthy amount of fear, concern for saving your teams, concern for how like the education is going to bring them up. How can they help sway that mindset? And what role do you play in being that connector between the two?
Yeah, it's very interesting actually, this, because I've spoken with so many legal tech providers, legal tech solutions companies, and in my eyes, they all tell me that they have the same problem, but I don't think they really know how to solve it. I think the main problem is trust. Lawyers don't trust them because they feel like they're being sold to, and that actually the tech companies don't understand the challenges of the lawyers. And so they're just trying to sell them something just for the sake of selling them their software, but do not understand the finite details of what those lawyers actually need. And I think there are a few legal tech companies that are run by people who used to be lawyers. So they have an idea of the challenges and things. But I think where they're going wrong is the conversation needs to start with, okay, what are your challenges within your law firm? Is it culture? Is it mindset? What specific challenges do you have that can be solved by AI, that can speed up processes, that can automate processes? Instead of going with this approach, I think a lot of them are just like, our software does this. But the lawyers don't understand how that applies to their day-to-day life, because the lawyers are not technologists. They're not IT people. They don't understand this, because this is exactly how I was when I worked in law. I wasn't interested about the latest software. When there was a new update and we had to use a different technology, I was like, no, please do not give me a new thing to learn. I don't care. So I think this is the tech companies don't understand because they're excited about their new technology. And I think another thing is what I mentioned at the beginning is trust. As I say, that they need to build trust with the lawyers. And there's a massive gap with that. And I guess it comes down to marketing. They're trying to push the features of their products. And again, lawyers don't care. It's like, how does this apply to me? We literally don't care. We just want to do our job. We just want to go home earlier. We just want to see our family. We want to sleep at night. How is your tech solving that problem? So I think it comes down to communication. But in my eyes, the biggest thing that technology companies can be doing is building community, which is what my biggest goal is, building a community around AI, because at the end of the day, we're all in the same boat. We're all confused. We're all worried about our jobs. So how can we actually come together and help each other? And this is the core of the AI Summit for me. It's about building this community of lawyers and providing them with practical tips and trainings to actually help them. And I think this is what technology companies should be doing, you know?
Completely. I think that the summit or that core value of yours, I suppose, goes to the heart of this. When I said the outside, it's not either or. We've both got to come together. And actually, the best way that tech can sell in is to get right in and under the hood of the people that they're selling to.
Yeah.
And the best way that the people that are being sold to can capitalize on the benefits for them personally first, and then their organizations can help them future proof their careers rather than stand in the way of them.
Yeah.
That speaks volumes. And as I say, it feels so interconnected with the general theme that has really come across that through the last several, or if not all, of my podcasts in some way with guests, that it comes down to still got to deal with the person. We've got all the data and the logic and workflows and things, and pretty shiny dashboards. But if it's just going to get a blank stare or increase anxiety, it's not really going to help. And have you come across any tech tools or legal innovations that actually genuinely surprised you in how user-friendly or like they were, or how you were like, oh, this was definitely built by a lawyer for a lawyer, by us for us? Still a work in progress for you, or are you still having to work with these teams to get there?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I've not seen anything that really wows me. I'm being brutally honest here. It's all just the same stuff. The only thing that really probably impressed me is Garfield's AI, which is the first AI-driven law firm to be regulated in the world. And now that is pretty cool because it's actually making claims that are being sent directly to court. Like AI is sending claim forms to court or automatically, and it's so interesting. So for me, that has really impressed me and surprised me. But in terms of like specific software with that law firms can use for, I don't know, specific tasks and things, I'm not really seeing anything crazily special. I'm sure there are though.
Once they go through your summit, Holly, see what you spit out. It sounds like there's a lot that you can add value to, and there's a lot out there actually for it's a call to action to say we know that there's potential here, but it's still really early days, so we all get to help shape that if that's something that we want to do. And I also, one of the things I'm curious to your thoughts on, I sit through host roundtables, or we go to these conferences and we speak about the benefits, about the mindset shifts needed, about trying to stay on top of what's coming. But sometimes it's easy to get lost in your own little world. So if we take the example of there's real and genuine and valid concerns over, well, at least in the next 5 to 10 years, a lot of tasks that we were used to doing maybe as a junior will be taken over. And how do we educate and maintain our teams and keep our pipeline flowing and train talent? And sometimes I need to take a step back and think, is this really that's not really our fight, right? Like we can't account for all of those things. And how much, when you're looking at these issues, do you go, we've only have control over so much, but actually these are like big global issues that go to like governments and education systems and things like that. Like, how do you create that separation for yourself, and is there one, or do we have more control than maybe I think?
That is a tricky question.
And yeah, we start to think about it, because sometimes I just think we can just be like, you can really spiral into maybe this is just, but
yeah,
it's, and when you're in a session and you start answering questions and they kind of evolve, and then you're like trying to make assumptions for things that are really not going to just be affecting this one company or this one law firm. This is like much bigger than us.
Yeah, totally. It is amazing how rapidly things are changing with AI. It's amazing how, companies are evolving as a result, how, as you say, regulations are evolving. I know that countries are starting to implement different regulations. Like I know Peru literally last week implemented a new AI regulation, which is similar to the EU AI Act. And there's so much debate around this topic of should it be regulated, should it not? I know the UK is pro not regulating it as much in order to be able to allow companies to innovate more. So it's a global debate, really, isn't it? And so it's going to be interesting as to how things pan out. In many ways, like you were saying, I am a little bit concerned because at the moment, so many lawyers specifically are using these different tools, but are we going, and this is what I think, in a few years, are we going to see an absolute chaos from the things that they do now to the results in the future in terms of, I don't know, let's say I feel like a lot of firms are rushing to use AI and technology to show that they're forward thinking and to try and automate in these things. But will in a few years it turn out that the technology that they use is actually wasn't compliant, or it leaks a load of data? And are we going to see some crazy cases in a few years about things that are happening because of this super fast evolution of the technology that they're adopting? So this is what I think about anyway. Don't know if you think about this.
I mean, yeah, God, what don't I think about, Holly? But I'm always, what was flashing through my head actually when you were talking just now is, and we just got to get on board with this. It's almost like cigarettes or smoking when they came out. We don't know what we don't know, and we don't know what health warnings will be on stuff in 5 or 10 years time when it comes to technology. That right now we're only now that we're getting into all the sustainability issues and how much water and energy is your one like in potentially inane question to ChatGPT, actually creating like we're in it. And I guess all my thoughts are on that is I'd rather be in it and part of the conversation and part of seeing it through than stepping out and just being apathetic and going, oh, I'll revisit this in 10 years time when everyone else has figured it out. And that's because I know these things are hard and we don't have the answers. And as we're used to having an answer, and I think the more I've kind of stepped out of it, the more I've done this podcast, it's my core belief is that we should have more questions than answers. And actually, maybe this is a place to close out. We've left people with so many things to think about, and it's really about continuing that conversation, continuing to think about what our workplace looks like, what does the leadership look like now that we have many things at interplay. But yeah, the title of this podcast is Unbiased, and I really do believe that shift from just judgment to real curiosity is having those questions. And so I ask each of my guests to leave us with one question that you think we should be asking more of in our daily lives. Or share what's that question that does keep popping up for you that if you have time, you think that everyone should just delve into a little bit?
I think for me, there's a topic that keeps popping up, and it's quite relevant to this conversation and relevant probably to everyday life, is just being aware of our actions and how we feel. And I think it comes down to asking yourself, does this align with me and my goals and how I feel? Does this sit right with me? And it could apply to anything. It could be, I don't even know, something super simple, or it could be something super big, like in my workplace. Am I happy where I am? Does this align with how I feel and where I'm at and where I want to go? It could apply to embracing technology. It could apply to writing one post on LinkedIn. It's something that I try to ask myself every time I make a big decision or even a small decision, because it can impact you massively. And I think it's all about having these boundaries with ourselves. So that's the one for me.
I literally have goosebumps at that question because one, I think it brings us full circle to the story, your story that you shared at the beginning, because so your question is, each of us should be thinking about this daily. Does this, whatever this could be in almost any given moment of your day, align? It forces us to think about what is important to us. It forces us to stop and pause and step out from the rush and the noise around us. And for me, it seems from from this very conversation we've had together, Holly, that it has been your kind of guiding light into living intentionally, taking action when most of your peers would have just gone, this is just how it is. And to see how much passion you have for everything you do, to see your ability to just keep moving forward and being open to not knowing stuff and figuring it out as you go. It's massively inspirational. You've given me a bit more energy to take into my day. I think it's a brilliant question to leave for us all. Thank you, Holly. Yeah. And I can't wait to see what comes next.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. I derive so much energy from speaking to such inspiring guests and having really meaningful and challenging conversations. If you felt the same way, my ask of you is to please subscribe to this podcast, either here or wherever you download your podcast content from. Unbiased is a labour of love for me, and the impact that these perspectives have depend on reaching as many eyes and ears as possible. So your support is invaluable. Until next time, stay curious.